binge watching, when just one more episode suddenly turns into watching an entire season overnight. With access to the biggest streaming services on our TVs, computers, and phones, it seems almost impossible for us to stop watching the shows we love. The idea of binging is when you do enough of something that actually negatively impacts your life, meaning that it doesn't only apply to watching something on your TV for hours on end. Things such as binge eating and binge drinking can have serious impacts on anybody's life and can easily turn into forms of addiction. But when it comes to binge watching, what exactly is it that keeps us sat in front of our screens for hours on end? And what impact is the modern streaming culture actually having? But first of all, let's look into the science of binge watching. A survey conducted by the streaming service Netflix showed that 73% of their users feel happy whilst they're binge watching. This is because binge watching has been proved to produce dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is the hormone responsible for that feel-good sensation that we get from doing something we enjoy.
I feel normally quite happy because I've enjoyed it and then I want to watch it over and over again, so I tend to go and re-watch the entire series or whatever I've watched.
No, I don't get tired watching a box set or anything. Although mentally it makes like watching something like Friends, because it's so funny, it makes me feel kind of happy and in a feel-good mood.
The good feeling that we get from dopamine is what can encourage us to continue with an activity. Whilst some may hold the effects of hormones on the brains responsible for keeping us glued to our box sets, questions can be raised on the techniques that the businesses use in order to get their users hooked onto a TV show or series of films. The biggest streaming services such as Amazon Prime, Netflix, and even YouTube all have something in common, and that is that they all encourage their users to binge watch. When it comes to box sets, streaming services such as Amazon Prime and Netflix will put the whole box set or season up at once, rather than put up a new episode every week and making an audience wait to progress in the story. And even major broadcasting companies such as the BBC will upload a whole box set onto their iPlayer service after all the episodes have been broadcast. This causes many viewers to actually wait until a show is finished and then binge watch the whole series on the catch-up service, so they are not required to wait for the next episode.
If a series is out on TV, we wouldn't watch it. We'd wait until it's finished on TV, and then we'd catch it all up on iPlayer because the whole series would be on there, and then we can just binge watch.
When it comes to watching one episode after another, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and YouTube, and any other streaming service out there has found a way to make it easier for us to continuously watch episode after episode. By having an autoplay system with a maximum of 30 seconds between each episode and being able to immediately play the next episode with just a push of a button, it reduces the amount of time it takes for us to make the choice of whether we want to or whether we actually should continue watching, since we don't have time to consider the consequences of continuing with our binge watching. And by the time the next episode begins, we are likely to get captivated and think, I might as well watch it. And even after we have finished with a show and before we have chance to experience the post-binge blues, the businesses are there making recommendations on what we think we should watch next. But who are the people that get involved in binge watching, and why or why not?
I am 17 years old and I use Netflix.
I am 16 years old and I use Netflix.
I'm 17 and I use Sky Go, Amazon Prime and YouTube.
I'm 53 years old and I would watch generally in the normal fashion, I guess, in the lounge in front of a TV set.
I was encouraged to subscribe because I heard about all the good films and the TV shows and like the original films that they release, and I just wanted to see what it was all about.
I was encouraged by friends and friends and family, because they said, oh, we're all watching this, and you kind of think, oh, I'm not involved in this. It was kind of a sort of a fear of not being in the group.
So I heard about the films and stuff on there through like people's recommendations, and obviously when you go onto a film it recommends like similar films on there for you to watch, so I see what's on there, I see what I like, and it just brings up more stuff for me to see.
Well, I've always used YouTube as like, in my opinion, it's like part of life, like everybody, near enough everybody uses it.
Normally when I watch Netflix, I pick up like a film and I normally watch that film plus maybe like another one, or if I'm watching a TV show I'll watch like a few episodes of it depending on like the length of the episodes. But I don't like to spend like all day on there because it makes me feel like unproductive.
I love the fact that I can just watch one episode after the other. It's amazing.
I just tend to watch the same things over and over again. I don't really change anything I watch. It's just like the same things like on YouTube, it'll be the same channels. I won't change that. I'll watch like the same video over and over again. It's the same with like Amazon and Sky. When I had Netflix before I got rid of it, when 13 Reasons Why was popular, I binge watched it, but I don't tend to binge watch anything at the moment. Probably because I don't have enough time and I'm always too tired.
There was one or two programmes on the Discovery Channel a few years ago which I sort of got quite interested in. Deadliest Catch, about the Alaskan crab fishermen. So, you know, sometimes I'd watch, you know, 2 or 3 episodes of that straight off, but I don't suppose you'd really class that as binge watching. No, I don't really feel the need to sort of watch more than 2 or 3 at any one sitting. You know, I'm quite happy to come back to it a couple of days later and watch it again. Maybe just a little bit of a generation thing. I'm not particularly technologically minded.
I suppose it's easier because you've got loads of different box sets for like, I don't know, whatever it is, 10 quid a month or whatever. Whereas you've just got one box set for like 25 quid when you buy it on Amazon, or wherever else you decide to buy it. So yeah, I think that's the pleasure of having something like Netflix or Amazon Prime or things like that.
There are obviously a lot of films at your fingertips and you can just watch what you want when you want, and it's cheap, and you have to pay like 6 quid a month or something to watch as many films and TV shows as you possibly want to. So it's good. I'd say the disadvantages are that it is very easy to kind of get caught up in a programme, and it's very easy to binge it and do nothing else but watch that all day. Because obviously with like DVD box sets, you have to after a certain amount of episodes, you have to then go up and change the disc round, which people are then like, oh, I can't want to do that, I'll just do something else now. So it does encourage a lot of binging and laziness, I guess.
You know, in terms of sitting down in front of a box in the corner of the room, that could be 10 years, 15, 20 years time, a thing of the past. It is what it is. You know, as I said, if I have to change my viewing habits to cope with that, then I will do. I grew up in an era where you had a choice of 3 channels rather than the countless number you've got now, and so yeah, it'll be sad in a way, but that's progress, I guess.
We know that binge watching heavily revolves around modern online streaming methods, but what impact it is having on the DVD industry?
For working media retail, sort of on and off for about a year, so I did sort of a Christmas like temp thing, then from sort of last May was full time after that. I think a lot of people expect that older people tend to buy DVDs and Blu-ray when it's not really the case. There's still like a pretty varied mix of people that actually do buy them. Again, Blu-ray and sort of DVD. In fact, most of our customers that even buy 4K are like much older, sort of 50 plus. So there's not really any massive difference from what I've noticed in terms of who's actually buying DVDs. I don't know, I don't think people realise how big sort of market DVD sales still is. Like people do enjoy shopping, probably not as much as they should do. But yeah, it's tricky to say because there's not really, like I say, much difference between the numbers of old and young people actually buying things at the minute. Like I say, most of the 4K sales I've seen personally have gone to older people, like more affluent, sort of 50 plus, some mostly like sort of retirees. I guess they've got the disposable income for it. I don't know, maybe younger people prefer the Blu-rays to DVDs, but like I say, on the whole, there's no sort of big sort of demographic that jumps out that says, oh, they don't buy DVD or they do buy DVD. It's still pretty broad from what I've seen. I still think there are plenty of people that still have sort of the view that they want to own something that they've invested in. It's fine downloading things and keeping them on like a library or like your own hard drive sort of thing. But I think for a lot of people, there's a big satisfaction from actually having a shelf of books or a shelf of DVDs. And I think that's something that's, I don't know, maybe less affected by the availability of having things available to download online, probably more impacted by, you know, how people sort of, like what they're raised around. So, you know, I always had grandparents that had big bookshelves of like VHS, and the same for some like family friends, and I'd always sort of be like, wow, look at that library sort of thing. Not a real library because it's films, it's still a library. And so for me, that made me want to have my own sort of collection. Mine's not as big as theirs, but, you know, I think it depends person to person, sort of who, sort of how they've been sort of raised on it sort of thing.
There's something just sort of like still fun about DVDs, like so that you know you've got them, whereas on Netflix they may only be on Netflix for a little while, like for a few months or whatever, whereas when you've got it on DVD you've got it for a long period of time.
I think the DVD industry is probably facing challenges, you know, due to the rise in sort of streaming, but also due to like other factors. Like I say, high street wise, there's definitely a struggle with rental prices in the high street. They're always going up, which puts a lot of pressure on retailers, especially when, you know, people aren't really that concerned anymore about buying physical sort of items. Yeah, I do think there are challenges facing sort of DVD sales, but I don't personally see them as sort of something that's, you know, out of the ordinary, nothing that like maybe other industries don't face. So you've got, like I say, you've got streaming, when more people are sort of focusing on just keeping digital copies or not even owning sort of the content they're consuming. And you've also got this sort of changing culture where people don't want to own physical like artifacts anymore. But I don't think it's as big of a concern as what's probably made out to be. And the main challenges the DVD industry are facing are high rents and high street, a bit of a cultural change because of streaming, and sort of younger people not wanting physical collections of things anymore. I suppose it's maybe sort of similar to the web boom, the internet boom, like in the late 90s. So suddenly the internet came out and everyone went mad for it. You know, publishers, I'm pretty sure, pulled physical editions of their work and stuff, and everyone just went mad for online content. And eventually that sort of calmed down. People were like, oh, actually, we still need other outlets to sort of, you know, meet the needs of our sort of readerships. I think in the same way, you know, streaming happened, and then we had lots of people, not necessarily young people or old people, but we had lots of people being like, oh, this is great. I no longer have to keep shelves of things anymore, which is fine for some people. But I think that maybe sparked a bit of a cultural change. So generations after that are now being brought up on this sort of idea that you can still own things and not own an actual copy of it, sort of thing. So I think that's just sort of, that's gained traction, and more people are thinking they can, or just think that it's more, I don't know, practical to not have physical copies of things. I think that's sort of spread a bit in sort of like in the minds of people. But I think there's still a lot of people, like I say, that still like to have physical copies of things. As long as they're there and people are still buying things they want to collect, then hopefully that will also seep back into the consciousness of people, and people will think, oh, actually, you know, I do like having a bookshelf of DVDs or something. I think it's sort of it's a constant sort of nebulous sort of battle's really dramatic, but it's a constant sort of like challenging sort of ideas that are always going to be there, sort of thing. So you're always going to have people that want physical things, people that don't want it. It's just going to be balancing out, really. I don't think one will ever overtake the other wholly.